after a showing against MacArthur where he was sensational. Here's the corner, driven in by Berisha and headed out by Isaias. Picked up by O'Neill. Berisha again. That'll loop over the top off the head of Curtis Good. Scored 3 times last season, by far his best seasonal return. Yet to get off the mark this time around. I guess when we're talking about goalkeepers, Grace, and future Socceroos, we got 2 of the best of the next generation on show today. Not just Joe Gauci, but Tom Glover as well.
Yeah, look, we certainly do, and had a chat to Tom Glover pre-game and asked him about his aspirations, whether that be internationally or with the Socceroos, and he said certainly that's a dream of his as a player.
There's Tom Glover, who was between the posts for the Olyroos, their campaign in Tokyo. Joe Gauci's actually got a couple of options, New Zealand and Malta, should he choose to play for one of those countries. Here's Tolman. Gets it back off Tilio. Berisha. City trying to get their little triangles going. Tilio whips it in too close to Gauci.
Yeah, but they're 2 quality goalkeepers, both Tom Glover and Joe Gauci. Played all minutes respectively for their teams, and arguably Gauci with a bit more work to do at the back for Adelaide, but nonetheless, whenever either one is called into action, they've had a remarkable season so far.
Interesting to note that really it was only the injury to James Delianov that opened the door in the first place for Joe Gauci. Blackwood might be offside here. Flag. Now it does go up. Well, Melbourne City aren't happy, but that's what the assistant referees are told to do these days, isn't it? Keep your flag down if there's any sort of doubt, and let VAR take care of it if there's a problem. And a goal is scored. But
you could see that moment of hesitation from Melbourne City, and for whatever reason, Blackwood had edged himself onside. It's a concerning point. It's a
game, and are yet to lose when going in front. 5 wins and 3 draws from the previous 8. So City have got a job on, but they've got some room here for Van der Ven. Beyond him is Boss. It wasn't the best release, in all honesty, from the Dutchman.
It was a good tackle by Halloran. Had to be too. He's timed that really well. It's something that Jordan Boss does so well, though, just working up and down that left-hand flank. Such an engine.
Valon Berisha again with the set piece. Gives his teammates the eyes. Nodded firmly clear. Berisha again. George Blackwood doing the necessary for the Reds. Not that they're playing in red today. And that's a foul by Tilio. What colour would you call that? Off cream? Beige?
I'd call that bone. So.
Bone, of course it's bone. Yes, I've forgotten about that. Colours, Grace?
Look, I really enjoyed the Adelaide United away kit last year, the coral. A little more splasher colour to it.
I think I got that one wrong as well. I called it pink.
I won't ask you about your favourite kit. I haven't been a City man.
sky blue, but of the Manchester City version, not the Melbourne City. Here's Good, Curtis Good. Lecky. O'Neill. Prod forward, but McLaren unable to turn it round the corner. Now Talbot. O'Neill. Tilio. Driving for the byline, and Gauci can't hold it. McLaren couldn't quite control it. O'Neill, and here's Van der Ven. And it took a heavy deflection. And it's going to be another City corner.
That's better from City. Really good passes around the edge of the box, and once again Tilio looking to create. Jamie McLaren would have liked that one to drop just moments earlier where he was in a really good position. The shot Van der Ven got away, had a bit of venom behind it.
Jamie McLaren, who's trimmed that beard after going a couple of games without a goal, said he wouldn't shave it whilst his streak was hot. Near post, 1-1. Thomas Lamb. First goal in Melbourne City blue. And the league leaders tie it up. Nobody picked up that run at the near post. And he beat Gauci. And we're all square.
Well, it didn't take the ladder leaders too long in the Harvey Norman replay. It's a great delivery in, and the arrival from Thomas Lamb and the near post was inch perfect. That's a brilliant header. Knocked home, and Gauci, nothing he can do on that occasion.
Well, he out-jumps both Craig Goodwin and George Blackwood at that near post. Goes to celebrate with Valon Berisha, who claims his first assist for Japan.
Well, it was a tidy finish. Really well-timed header at that near post, and just judging off the last couple of minutes, City have looked comfortable.
Now Adelaide must deal with the inevitable onslaught as Van der Ven presses Lopez. That goal, incidentally, Melbourne City's 300th home goal at Amy Park. It's clever from Van der Ven. Tilio. Not quite so good. Ooh, and it's just skewed off that right shin of Ryan Kitto. Ball's still alive, and City in the mood. Bit of room here for Richard Van der Ven, shut down by Popovic. Now reset through Lecky, looking to hang it up to that back post. Alagic can't get distance on the header. Berisha trying to pick his way through, and out it goes for a goal kick in the end, and the Reds survive.
Good afternoon, Simon and Grace. Interesting to speak to Rado Vidicic before the game. He said that their side comes into this game really fresh. They've had an extra day off this week, just the 4 training sessions, and their intensity levels were going to be high from the outset. I was going to say before Melbourne City scored, that Adelaide had done a fantastic job in the first 11 minutes of matching that intensity. There's a long way to go in this one. Interesting to look at that corner as well. Craig Goodwin throwing his arms up in the air. Just get the sense that perhaps George Blackwood was not far behind him. It might have been his job to track that run at the near post, and hence the frustration from Goodwin.
Makes effort. George Blackwood's goal cancelled out. Carl Beard's team taking the lead in the very first minute, which is the first goal that Melbourne City have conceded in the first quarter of an hour of a game this season. They were the only side in the league yet to concede in that opening 15-minute period, but that record is now gone. They are back on level terms thanks to Thomas Lamb. Lecky. Backheel was a little bit overdone by Berisha. City still have it. O'Neill. And Talbot's going to have a go! Oh, decent try. He's never scored for City either. And Joe Gacci was worried enough to fling himself across his penalty area.
That was lovely from Talbot. What a strike. Not too far off either. It had some whip behind it, though. That was really well hit. Interesting that you mentioned, Simon, with City's goal scoring, and when they concede, Adelaide do tend to score most of theirs in our opening passage, so unsurprising to see that come.
Might be another one here. Goodwin finding Halloran, and he took it nicely. And Tom Glover is forced to parry over the crossbar and behind for a corner.
Well, we've been treated to a couple of really quality early strikes. Halloran has hit that sweetly, and Tom Glover does all he can just to steer that one away from the frame of the goal, but Halloran has got behind that shot nicely.
Oh, we said it's been a weekend full of goals in the Isuzu Ute A-League men's. 19 before today, make that 21, and only just past the quarter-hour mark at Amy Park. Goodwin's corner, there's another one! Ryan Kitto, just his second of the season. Incredible. And again, it's a set piece. Melbourne City score from a corner, and Adelaide say, we can do that too. 2-1 for the Reds.
Well, what an opening passage here this afternoon, and delightful finish from Kitto. So have a look on the Harvey Norman replay. Unsurprisingly, the delivery from Craig Goodwin is yet again exquisite. That timing. Kitto has just held his ground really well. He didn't have to actually leave the ground to connect with that one. But again, Adelaide off a set piece. They do love a set piece, and they're back in the lead.
Finds that little flick on at the near post by Javi Lopez. No wonder he gets some congratulations from Craig Goodwin. Ryan Kitto getting the plaudits for his tidy finish as well. 3 goals in the opening 18 minutes.
Well, there's another 2-2 draw written all over this one, Simon, just to match the pattern of the weekend.
Only Wellington have taken points off City at Amy Park this season, and that was thanks to a late comeback which gave them a 2-2 draw. Adelaide with their noses in front, but for how long? Is Talbot. Tilio going back post for Leckie, and Van de Ven, and Joe Gacci again. Another big save by the Reds custodian.
That's class by Joe Gacci. A little right shake of the head from Van de Ven. The delivery far post is quality from Tilio, and the nod back even more so from Leckie. But Richie Van de Ven is asking how that hasn't gone in. It's a brilliant save.
Spread himself, narrowed the angle, and Van de Ven couldn't find a way past him. Now, referee Adam Kersey is just checking that the ball is within the quadrant. Well on Berisha, assuring him that it was. And again, a little signal with the eyes. And he goes towards that near post area. Not going to be caught out twice, Adelaide. Berisha again. Tilio. Backheel by Berisha, and the cross by Boss straight down the throat of Gacci. Around about 2-2, Grace. This might be 5-5 by the end of this.
Certainly has that feel about it. City's response has been good yet again.
O'Neill's cut back, Berisha. Onside here, Leckie. Van de Ven looking to go back post, and Tilio did reach it, but not the tallest player on the park. Couldn't find the direction. Big chance though for Richard Van de Ven some moments ago. Scored a couple of goals already this season. including that delightful chip against the Wanderers a week or two back.
Well, he has hit the ground running here at Melbourne City, Richie van der Ven. A really important part of the midfield, and I did mention that goal a couple of weeks ago, important for this City side.
Dorigo mopping up for the Reds. So he is playing in that unfamiliar central defensive role, although, as you mentioned in pre-game, Grace, he has played that position before. It's certainly not his natural spot in the team. Clough is guilty of dragging back his opponent. There is the Spaniard. City can't keep hold of it. And the Reds are on the attack. Blackwood. Halloran on the right. Tempting ball across the face, and Talbot couldn't afford to take any chances.
That's a really good ball from Halloran. Surprised a little bit to see a City shirt try and clean that up. I'll take accountability for that, but Halloran is quality down this right-hand side for Adelaide, and that ball was just tempting.
Well, let's see if Melbourne City have learned their lesson from the set pieces. Adelaide have scored 10 from such situations this season. Do you know what? Ben Halloran wasn't very tightly marked. Had a clear sight of that.
Really enjoyed the work of Halloran this season so far, and there's obviously a lot said about Craig Goodwin down the left for Adelaide, but the wealth of work that Halloran does, his deliveries, his work rate, a lot of Adelaide's attack does come down that right-hand side.
Yeah, good to see Ben Halloran settled. He's moved around a few clubs overseas and didn't really make his mark, but looks like Adelaide is very much home for him. He's trying to close down Jordan Boss here. Leckie. Lopez got a foot in. Isaias works it out to Goodwin, and beyond him is Kitto. It's going to be a goal kick. Final touch off Kitto, and Thomas Lamb. That's just landed awkwardly on that right foot. Sometimes that's the way it goes when you get the ball played into you. Sort of twist your foot around as you had it planted in the turf.
It looked like a bit of an innocuous one there on Thomas Lamb. I wonder if clearing this ball out may have just twisted his ankle. Yep, there it is. A little tweak of the ankle, and those ones do really hurt.
It'll be a sore one for Thomas Lamb. It gives Rano Vidicic the chance to have a little discussion with Matt Leckie. Last time City went 3 games without a win in the competition. It's exactly 12 months ago, but those 3 games were all draws. Long way to go still in this one, of course. Good turn by Leckie. Lopez went down. McLaren looking to return the favour for Leckie, and referee Kersey's going to bring them back for an arm across the face of the Spaniard by Leckie. It's the trailing arm, I think.
Yeah, Lopez went down pretty quickly, and you can see just open hand into the face of Leckie, and he used his body well on the first time of asking and rolled off Lopez really cleverly, but just that hand connecting with the face will always result in a free kick.
Van der Ven, I think, trying to pull out there. He wasn't going to get there. Head of Dorigo. Halloran. And a searching ball into the box, and Talbot again has to see it behind.
Adelaide are threatening, and again Halloran with a good early run. That ball through was weighted perfectly, and nice cross into the box as well. Adelaide on these set pieces are so dangerous.
Especially when you've got Craig Goodwin on set-piece duty. Near post, and Blackwood reached it. City having real trouble defending those corners. Yeah, Blackwood's got a problem with the left knee. Oh, doesn't look good.
Oh, that's really concerning for Blackwood there. You can see he's not comfortable at all, and a few comforting shoulders from his teammates gathering around him.
Yeah, you can see that left leg, as he falls over his teammate, has hyperextended backwards. Oh dear. It's completely accidental contact with his own teammate Ryan Kitto, but George Blackwood could be in a bit of trouble here. That's horrible.
Oh, that's a really tough one to see, especially in that slow motion. You could see the hyperextension of the knee as he's come down, and immediately he's gone to ground and clutching at it, and that is not a good sign at all for Blackwood.
We saw something similar in the game between the Mariners and the Wanderers last night with Roman Amalfitano, but if anything that looks to be even worse, and by the looks of it, damage could be a lot worse as well. And that's such a pity for George Blackwood, who scored after 34 seconds, of course, and has waited a long time to get a start in this Adelaide team ahead of Hiroshi Ibasuki. Not sure he's going to be able to continue. Here's his goal. Came after just 34 seconds. Marco Tilio played a big part in it, inadvertently. And a tidy finish by Blackwood. But whether he'll be able to continue, Grace?
Yeah, I don't think so, and it is promising to see him back to his feet, but when you do have a hyperextension to that degree, look, it's not a good sign, and that's really disappointing for Blackwood, because he, even the goal aside, has started this game really brightly and was absolutely making the most of his start this afternoon.
Well, he's walking, that's something, but not with any degree of comfort. Our sympathies with George Blackwood. So Hiroshi Ibasuki was left on the bench today and is without a goal, as mentioned, in his last 7 games. Gets the early call.
Well, and it is asked of the team. Carl Wirtz in a good position to have a player like Ibasuki be able to come on with his quality, but yeah, that is a short day and a really disappointing one for George Blackwood.
He'll go off to have that injury assessed. Let's hope it's nothing too serious. It did not look good. So Hiroshi Ibasuki gets the opportunity off the bench to build on what the Reds have done so far. To have another Japanese player, of course, in the men's competition. Nobu Saito is about to sign for the Newcastle Jets. Here's Leckie, and teed up for Jordan Boss. Quite wrapped his boot around it. Well defended by Popovic.
It's really well handled by Popovic, but Leckie did so well in those tight spaces there. Surprising to see those combinations in City's style of play, but Leckie on a couple of occasions just showing really good strength on the ball.
Here's Fallon Barisha driving through midfield, across the face towards McLaren, but Popovic stood firm. Talbot's cross charged down by Kitto. City will come again. O'Neill, Tilio, Barisha, and Leckie! golden chance, and he got underneath it. Really, either side of Gauchi, and it's 2-2.
Almost too much time there for Leckie. That ball really held up in the air, really bit of a shake of the head there, and he knows he needed to do better with that opportunity. He was onside. It was a beautifully timed run. But time almost stood still there for the Socceroo as he couldn't quite direct that one goalward.
Big opportunity. He won't need telling that. Here's Javi Lopez for Adelaide. Caught by Van der Ven. Might just be walking a little bit of a tightrope with regards to a yellow card. Clough's ball in was a dangerous one. It'll find Goodwin, who fires it with real pace. Right across the face of the City goal.
So those possession stats just moments ago. City hanging onto the ball for 70% of the time to Adelaide's 30, and unsurprising really, given the type of teams they are and the style City looks to play, but having a lot of time and space just carrying the ball from the back four.
Leckie. It's a good release by Berisha, straight at Dorigo. Boss. Van der Ven. Good. Lamb. Tilio forced back by presence of Kitto. It's good looking to lift it over the top. It's not a bad idea, but just slightly overhead for Talbot. He's getting into some good advanced positions today, the fullback.
Yeah, between both him and Jordan Voss, they love travelling up and down there. Respective wings and a wealth of work.
All a bit scrappy in the midfield there. Ultimately, Richard Van der Ven gets the benefit of the doubt. The XG favouring Melbourne City on the weight of chances that they've created. Think of those two big saves from Joe Gauchi and Leckie's miss from close range, and that probably seems about fair enough. But Adelaide have taken their opportunities. Aidan O'Neill. Flicked by Leckie, but gave O'Neill an awful lot to do. Seen out by Lopez. Had a good season, Aidan O'Neill. Doesn't perhaps scrap the headlines as much as Leckie, Tilio and McLaren, but just as important in the heart of midfield was a mistake by Talbot. And can't really do that when Craig Goodwin's around, but he can't link up with Ibasuki. Talbot spent much of this opening half an hour or so going forward. You can't forget about Craig Goodwin.
No, the last thing they need to do there is allow Craig Goodwin in time and space on his left foot. The recovery run from Melbourne City and Berisha in particularly, just to track his player and in that defensive effort. Although the ball hadn't gone through important defensive tracking.
Was that a shot, Grace?
Shot.
Kitto. City just a little bit nervous defensively.
Yeah, the run.
I haven't had too often, particularly here at Amy Park this season.
It does look to be a little bit greasy out at Amy Park today. We've seen on a few occasions players just lose their footing, just slip when they look to accelerate or decelerate.
Win for the Reds today would take them up to third on the ladder. Keep Melbourne City within range of the chasing pack.
He's had a relatively quiet start to this half, but rest assured Jamie McLaren is always lurking and finding himself in good positions. And how many times have we seen him pop up for Melbourne City and put away a really important goal?
There is the as live Wellington. Just on Jamie McLaren, by the way, if he does score today, he will move into fourth place on the all-time scorers list, past John Kosmina with 134 goals. That's NSL, and I don't think anybody's catching Damien Morey for the next 20 years. Jordan Boss. Van der Ven. Strong work from Lopez. Less accurate work from Zach Clough. Errant touch from Aidan O'Neill, which is not like him. Ibasuki. Dorigo. Alagic. Turned around the corner by Goodwin. Kitto. Teasing cross, and Ibasuki was ready to pull the trigger before Curtis Good's intervention. Yeah, a little off the ball incident involving Van der Ven and Halloran, which is why the whistle has gone.
Van der Ven feeling the effects of that challenger. Don't know that there was too much in it. A little off the ball.
Just a little shot, wasn't it, from Van Halloran? Van der Ven wasn't getting out of the way.
But it was a good look moment earlier from Adelaide, and you could see Ibasuki lining up to get on the end of that one. A really important intervention by Curtis Good.
Into the last 5 minutes of the opening half. Good. He wanted an option and wasn't forthcoming quickly enough from his teammates. good. Lecky working it out towards Van der Ven. Tilio. City keen to get back square before the break. Barisha. O'Neill. Now they'll move it wide for Talbot. Lecky staying onside despite Isaiah's appeals. Talbot first to the loose ball. Adelaide into their own defensive third here. It's Matt Lecky. I'm sure they're happy for them to shoot from that sort of range. And there is Damien Murray. We talked about him a few minutes ago. Jamie McLaren hot in pursuit, but he is a long way clear. Damien Murray, one of the greats from the National Soccer League days, and of course he played a bit in the A-League too, and a fair few goals for his country. Sat next to Mark Milligan. He's probably looking at the big screen and saying, why am I on telly?
Oh, he knows we're talking about him, but what a record. And what a great of the game as well, and quite the gap for Jamie McLaren to close down.
Ibasuki. Kito happy to go all the way back to Joe Gauci. He's made a couple of very important saves in this first half for the Reds. To deny Marco Tilio, the other to block Richard Van der Ven's effort from close range. Oh, that's a risky ball by Boss, and Craig Goodwin accepts the gift. Goodness me, two massive defensive errors in this first half by Melbourne City. One by Tilio, now by Boss. Two of their best young stars this season, and Craig Goodwin was not going to miss from there. And Melbourne City have got a mountain to climb now. Craig Goodwin with his 6th of the season, and the Reds lead 3-1.
A calamitous error there by Melbourne City. And on the Harvey Norman replay, a gift, and a gift indeed. Craig Goodwin has read this so well. An easy left-footed finish, slammed into the back of the net. He won't get any easier than that this afternoon, and Jordan Boss a shake of the head, and Adelaide United strong position going into the halftime break.
And that goal is Craig Goodwin's 50th in all competitions for Adelaide United. Goal number 44 in the A-League. There we go. Scored a few in the cup competitions as well. Raised the bat, sir. What a strange first half from Melbourne City defensively. They got the best defence in the competition prior to today. And they've copped 3 on the jaw in the first half, and 2 of them from absolute howlers.
Well, coming into this game, they've just conceded the 8 goals. So in a matter of 44 minutes, to have 3 added to that tally, it's definitely asking a few questions of Rado Vidicic, and albeit from a couple of really easily fixed errors, you do have to ask what's happening there.
The interesting thing coming into this game, Grace, we were looking at Adelaide's central defensive pairing. There's 6 different duos so far this season, and they're 4th in 4 matches. I'm wondering whether that was going to be a massive problem, and instead it's been City with all the defensive issues. They've looked vulnerable, strangely.
They have, and it's such a good point, Simon. Adelaide played around with so many different permutations at the back, whether it be through injury, suspension, players unavailable. But this afternoon, Melbourne City just looks so shaky in that defensive line.
5 minutes to be added on. And credit to the Reds. They have taken those opportunities when they've come their way, and Rado Vidicic has probably got his most difficult half-time team talk ahead since he took interim charge following the departure of Paddy Kisnorbo. And yet, in an attacking sense, Grace, they've created a lot and not played too badly. But here come the Reds again. It's Halloran.
Well, Halloran just dragging that one wide, but yeah, look, you're exactly right. Melbourne City have looked comfortable. We know that they've had a lot of possession, but it's not just possession. They've been creating really well in their final third and looking good on the ball, combining nicely. But it's Adelaide who, when in their moments, they've had them and they've put their opportunities away.
O'Neill. Good sliding challenge by Clough. Lackey will pick up the scraps here. Threads it through for McLaren, who's barely had a kick in this first half. All the chances have gone to his teammates. Boss. Barisha. Van der Ven. Held up by Halloran.
Maybe that's the problem, Simon. Maybe Melbourne City need to look to find Jamie McLaren a little bit more, get him on the ball, their leading goal scorer.
Maybe they will here. Van der Ven. They'll get a corner off Javi Lopez. And they could really do with a goal before the break, the league leaders. The Red Army in good spirits at the moment. Couple of minutes of the additional 5 to play. Jamie McLaren, sometimes the sort of player that you don't notice in a game until he gets a chance, and then he normally pockets it. Barisha's corner, near post. Sudasuki made the block. Barisha again. Deeper this time. Good climb by Lecky, but straight at Gauci. Kitto forced to check by the pace of Matt Leckie and turning to try and retrieve the ball. Sayers. Fraction too high for Kitto. Well, that one's a little soft, unlucky.
Yeah, look, I thought that maybe was a little soft. I didn't see too much in that challenge. Too much in that one for me.
Rather subdued, Amy Park. Not used to this sort of scoreline, at least not this season. 5 home games have produced 4 wins and just the 1 draw. But they've got it all to do, Melbourne City. O'Neill, maybe the last attack of the first half. Tilio. Can't get around Lopez. Shut down by Van der Ven. Got a lucky ricochet there. Now they can look to stride forward through Ethan Alagich. He'll sweep it out towards Goodwin, and that is half-time. And Adelaide a little bit unhappy that they weren't able to complete that attack. Carl Veert throwing his arms up in disgust. But overall, he will be delighted with that first half display from his charges. The only cloud on the horizon, the injury to George Blackwood, who opened the scoring after just 34 seconds after an error and City back in it. Matt Leckie against his old club from a long way out. Joe Gauch will be disappointed. He's been beaten from there. But City have a sniff at 3-2.
Well, the comeback is on here in the Harvey Norman replay. Matt Leckie, it's a great driving run, the good drop of the shoulder to open up on his preferred right foot. And he's hit that sweetly. Gauchi will be disappointed. An awkward bounce just under his body, but that's nicely hit from Matt Leckie.
The first time he's scored in 6 games against his former employers. I think the goalkeeper has every right to be disappointed with himself that he's not managed to push that one away. He's made some good saves in the first half, Joe Gauchi, but as you rightly pointed out, Grace, just the bounce seemed to do him. Wow, what a game we've got now.
I thought we were done at the 4 goals, the mandatory 4 goals for this round. That's a great finish by Leckie.
And Adelaide under the pump, and it's a free kick for Melbourne City.
This might just ignite a little bit of fire and energy into this City side. The comeback is well and truly on. You can hear the City fans have sprung back into life.
And you can see on those faces that they've got the belief back. Rado Vidosic made his changes at the break. It's Matt Leckie who's been on from the start, who's got them back in the contest. And now this free kick, which Van der Ven hangs up towards Leckie at the back post. Forward away for now by Gauchi. O'Neill turns away from Halloran. And seen behind by Ethan Alagic, and City are building pressure.
Well, Gauchi had to get a punch, had to make some level of contact. Managed to help it on, as much so as clearing the ball, and not the most convincing contact, but good intervention nonetheless.
Big test for Adelaide now. Marlon Barisha's signal, and corner to be delivered. Driven towards the penalty spot. It's Boss on the half volley. Didn't really get hold of it. The header went backwards off Lopez. Ibasuki's in there as well. Eventually, Isaiah says enough and thrashes it upfield for the Reds. And you do think back to that closing attack in the first half when Adam Kersey blew for half-time. Adelaide were in such a good field position. Could they have gone on and scored from that? We'll never know. Now they've got a City blue tidal wave to deal with, you'd fancy, over the last half an hour or so.
Yeah, it was a curious one. Adelaide were in full swing for that attack, and certainly at the half-time whistle, Adelaide players and staff had a little bit to say about that one.
Of course, Adam Kersey will say, well, if time's up, time's up. But it's not often you see an attack halted like that. Callum Talbot's picked up a whack.
Interesting one, though, for Adelaide, and just in terms of their morale going into half-time, leading the break at 3-1, but went into the sheds with a bit of frustration following that last play just being halted. And now there's a really interesting question of game management. As you said, Simon's plenty of football to be played yet.
Jordan Boss on the move. Barisha jabs it out wide for Leckie. O'Neill, Van der Ven, Leckie. Almost everybody behind the ball for Adelaide United. Can't afford to sit too deep. And McLaren causing a bit of confusion between Popovic and Gauchi. And it's another City corner.
Well, Popovic had to commit to the challenge there. The communication from Gauci was just a little bit too late, but you don't want to be in two minds, and the defender has done well.
Mauritius corner. Near post. Drops here for Andrew Naboot, who volleyed it goalwards, and it took a touch off a defender. He's asking for handball, Andrew Naboot. Adam Kersey's not interested in that, but it will be another corner. Although VAR are going to just have a little look at that. Not for too long. Here's the subsequent corner, which Lopez is underneath. Brought down by Boss. Aidan O'Neill. Looking for Leckie at the back post. Sort of got caught betwixt and between a bit there. Here's that effort from Andrew Naboot. Well, I think the arms of Javi Lopez are well and truly tucked in.
Unless he was asking the question of Ibasuki, but I thought his arms were close enough to his body as well. But
you never know in this game, do you?
It's a good question, actually. You don't.
City going to get the decision here. Curtis Good took a ride on his opponent's back. Adam Kersey, a judge. Adelaide player to be backing into the City defender. There's a change for Adelaide. Ethan Alagic to be withdrawn. And we're going to get the more experienced Spaniard Juande in that central midfield role. And perhaps it's the sort of situation that calls for experience.
Yeah, look, I think so. I think at this point in the game, having the likes of Juande coming on, a more experienced head.
City are going to belatedly introduce Florent Berenguer as well. Not just yet. Mauritius free kick. To get over the top of De Rigo. Leckie leaving the throw for Jordan Boss. It's good work by Lopez. Ibasuki really needed to make that one stick. Adelaide needed some relief from the pressure that City have been building. Naboot.
It's a frustrating one for Adelaide, and you mentioned there Lopez. He has been a mainstay in this Adelaide defensive line. What has been an ever-changing back four. Lopez has been really solid for Adelaide.
Naboot leading with the arm, and that will give City the chance to make that change. Valo Berisha to be withdrawn. And Florent Berenguer to be introduced. Still without a goal, Valo Berisha for Melbourne City, but he has claimed his first assist today. It's opening goal for City anyway, for Thomas Lamb from his corner. And here's the Frenchman, who's missed the opening chunk of the season, of course, with that hamstring problem. For a forward in this second half for the Reds, and they get a corner off Nuno Reyes. And that brings the Adelaide fans to life, led by Redwig Steve. Rather shaky defensively, City in the first half. We haven't seen too much of the Reds in the second. It's going to be Goodwin's corner, and Ibasuki, well, came off a City defender last, and there were one or two half shouts from Adelaide for a penalty for handball.
Just a little pull of the shirt there, nothing too much, but Ibasuki, he's got up really well. You know, his timing in the air is often immaculate.
Going on. Richard van der Ven, fiery Dutchman with the red hair. Doesn't take a backward step, does he? Skirmishes as Goodwin prepares to deliver. Short to Dorigo, change of angle. Goodwin back post, but here comes City through Leckie. Oh, is there a trip there on the edge of the box from Lopez? The Spaniard tells Leckie to get up. Thinks it's a nonsense. Looking to drive it across. Cannoned away behind off Naboot. Now the Reds' corner.
He'd hoped, but it's fallen in the Reds' favour nonetheless with another corner for the afternoon. And again, they'll look to set up, and Ibasuki, no doubt the target.
Mentioned Craig Goodwin has now reached 50 goals in all competitions for Adelaide. He's got 49 in total in the A-League now, and he's taken the corner. And it popped.
Fell nicely to him just outside the 18-yard box.
Tito ran out of room. Talbot. Adelaide throw.
You can just feel the team really taking the ascendancy through this passage.
That's a nasty one. That's a nasty one. The ball got away from Juande. Oof. It doesn't look particularly good, does it, for Juande? Yeah. Craig Goodwin is saying that's a break. The angle of Juande's leg looked horrible. And that's a really nasty injury for the Spaniard. We're going to have a lengthy delay here, I fancy. Bironge needs treatment too. It was a ball that got away from the Spaniard. And in his attempts to retrieve it, he has sustained a really bad injury here.
Yeah, look, this is a really awful one here for Adelaide and Juande, and
it's horrible to see.
Terrible, and both sets of players just providing some support. You never like to see a teammate, let alone an opposition, one of your colleagues go down like that. A really awful moment.
And of course they will have to make sure that that leg is stable. Oh goodness me, I don't even want to look at that. That is horrible.
That's really, really hard to see. And look, I imagine Juande is perhaps in a bit of shock at the moment.
Well, I was about to say the same thing, because I'd be screaming the place down. And maybe he's just in shock. Anyway, they put the towels around the Spaniard now, which I think is good, because we don't really need to see that. Terrible for Carl Viet. Juande only off the bench a matter of minutes. Just had a shot at the other end of the pitch. How a football season can change in the blink of an eye. And of course, in the first half, they lost George Blackwood to an injury, which we thought might have been a nasty one as well at the time. Better news for Blackwood, but it's not 100% not good news for Juande.
Awful scenes, and respectfully, the medical staff putting the towels up around, and look really distressing for his teammates.
Particularly his compatriots. Javi Lopez is in tears. Let's go down to Michael Zapone. Zappa.
Oh, horrible, Simon. It's literally metres away from where it happened, and I could hear the crack. It was an awful sound, and the players immediately knew what had happened there. Melbourne City players running over to the sideline to call for an ambulance, so an ambulance is on its way. He'll be taken straight to hospital. But that sound is something that you won't forget, and he'll be out for quite some time. Let's hope he receives that treatment very quickly and is okay. But as you said, everyone in shock here.
Yeah, not good. And obviously we're going to have a lengthy delay here at Amy Park. Let's show you the goals again. Plenty of them to get through, Grace. It all started as early as the first minute, 34 seconds, in fact, when George Blackwood put the Reds in front before he suffered an injury of his own.
He did, and a really uncharacteristic error from Tilio, failing to clear that, the old double touch where his standing foot just gets a little nudge in on the ball, and Blackwood, to his credit, started the game really well and tucked that first goal home nicely.
That was the equaliser, Velon Barisha's corner, and Thomas Lamb with his first goal in Melbourne City colours, escaping the two markers, Craig Goodwin and Blackwood, but it wasn't long before the Reds were back in front. Another set piece and another goal, this time for Ryan Kitto.
A couple of really good deliveries, respectively, from each side on those set pieces, and nodded home nicely. And there's this one from Jordan Boss, and he'll hate to watch this back, but it's a beautiful pass for Craig Goodwin, who really made the most of that error, but Boss will be really disappointed with that.
Yeah, I mean, you can count on the fingers of one hand the amount of defensive mistakes Melbourne City have made this season, but two big blunders in the opening 45, and a player of Craig Goodwin's quality wasn't going to miss from there. His 50th goal in all competitions for Adelaide United. But City are back in the contest through Matt Leckie. But Joe Gauci, who made some big saves in the first half, won't be happy with this, Grace.
No, not at all. That's a really tough one for a goalkeeper when you get that bounce right before your body to try and get down and read it. But look, what a distressing moment back here at Amy Park. And this is really tough for players to see a friend, opposition, a teammate go down in the way that Juande has, and quite a break in play.
And it's one of those situations, isn't it? It's a 50-50 ball. Both players go for it. You can see the impact it's having on Juande's teammates, particularly the Spaniards. Javi Lopez is especially close. Even Florent Berenguer is struggling to deal with these scenes in front of him. They've got the towels around him, and obviously they've got to make sure that he's comfortable. They've got to make sure that that leg is in a position where it can't be moved before they gently ease him onto the stretcher and get him off to hospital, which is where he needs to be.
Exactly right, and look, understandably so, that his teammates and are particularly distressed, and you'll see that no doubt the green whistle will come out for Juande, and just to manage his pain. But look, it's really quite heartbreaking seeing Lopez in such distress, and difficult for Adelaide to watch on.
And you mentioned the fact that he looked as though he was in shock, and I guess without wishing to delve too deep into the psychology of things, you've sustained major injuries during your playing career. I guess it really starts to set in. You get to hospital, whether it's an ACL, a broken leg or whatever it is, and then you're looking at such a long period of recuperation and a chunk out of your career.
And look, I think at this moment in time, one day would just be going through that initial shock, and it won't be until a little bit later that those thoughts start filtering through. But look, as we did see, he barely reacted to the challenge, which tells me he sort of immediately was in a state of shock, and it will be as the minutes tick by that he realises the severity of what's happened there.
And particularly a player of Juanday's age, with the greatest respect to him, he's 36, so he's not a youngster that can perhaps bounce back from those sorts of injuries quite so easily. Let's go back down to Michael Zapponi, who is pitch side. Zappa.
Yeah, thanks, Simon. Just spoke to Greg O'Rourke, who's just made his way down onto the pitch as well. And, yeah, he's just helping out with all of the officials and organising an ambulance to be brought onto the ground. So that's happening as we speak. And all the Melbourne City doctors are working around as well to help him at the moment. So, yeah, we expect an ambulance will arrive shortly and take him straight to hospital.
Thanks very much, Zappa. Yeah, Greg O'Rourke, the A-League Commissioner, of course, present at Amy Park today. Very serious situation. If you are just tuning in, we've had a cracking game of football, but unfortunately a lengthy delay here. A broken leg for Juanday of Adelaide United, who was fresh off the bench as a second half substitute for Ethan Alagic, and only just back in the Red squad after serving a suspension. But you'd reckon that is his season over, and it's another problem for Carl Beert to deal with. And they've had a few injuries this season. And I guess the other thing to note, not that the two coaches are thinking about this at the moment, their thoughts are with Juanday, Grace, but in the context of the game, how do they refocus the players' minds once Juanday is eventually moved to hospital and the game restarts, which by the looks of it is still quite a few minutes away.
Yeah, and it's really tough because what this does to the playing group, obviously we saw the players quite distressed on screen as well, and how unsettling that can be. Adelaide United and as well Melbourne City players equally, it does really sort of obviously take any momentum out of a game, and to try and get things going again, to reboot psychologically is really tough, and emotionally as well. It's a really, really difficult space to try and recuperate.
Well, the players can do nothing but stand around and wait. It's not as if they're going to get cold out there. It's a pretty warm day in Melbourne, but of course they're not moving around, and I guess at some point, if this continues much longer, then they might think about taking them back to the dressing rooms. Greg O'Rourke will perhaps have a say in that, the A-League Commissioner. Yeah, tough for Carl Beert. Coaches look at players almost like sons or daughters in the women's game, and one of them is sick or is hurt to this extent. They feel it pretty personally too.
They do, and your teammates, whether you're a teammate, the coach, any of the support staff, they're like family. And when you see someone go down in that fashion, it's really distressing.
In terms of the on-field action, well, if Adelaide do manage to hold on for this win today or increase their lead, they will go up to third on the A-League ladder. Melbourne City will remain top of the pile with a 4-point break. Carl Beert and Greg O'Rourke deep in conversation. And of course, the ambulance has yet to arrive. Sure, it's on its way.
I'm sure Greg O'Rourke has all the answers, but there's also a period of time in which the game has to recommence, to restart play, and I'm sure both teams and Greg O'Rourke will be mindful of that.
And such a pity, Grace, because these two teams have given us such a good game of football as well. It's been terrific, end-to-end goal-mouth action and 5 goals scored.
It's been a really entertaining match so far, and some good quality goals, a lot of really great talking points, but look, you never want to see this. You never want to see this for a player to go down, and a really tough situation for both teams to be in.
And it's happened to one of Adelaide's most experienced players, 36-year-old Juande, who re-signed for the extra year back in May of last year. Clearly going to have a long period out of the game. There's Eugene Galekovic on the right, the goalkeeping coach of Adelaide United. His 2 young charges, Joe Gauci and James Delianov, deep in conversation, perhaps discussing that second City goal from Matt Leckie, and Joe Gauci just explaining that the ball just skipped off the turf, which is maybe what deceived him. That is Pete van der Poel, who is one of the owners, certainly the most visible owner of Adelaide United, who's come down pitch side to be with his players and his coach. Good to see behind them George Blackwood, at least has a smile on his face. He copped a nasty whack in the first period as well off his own teammate Ryan Kitto. Completely accidental, but the club have confirmed, as far as they're aware, there is no ACL damage for Blackwood at least.
Of course, after the men's game this evening, the women's game is on as well, so there'll be a lengthy delay to the kick-off on that one too.
Okay, let's go down to Zappa. As you can see, the ambulance has arrived. Zappa.
Yeah, interesting one around the ambulance. It's been, 13 minutes now since the injury occurred, Simon, and questions are asked around why wasn't there an ambulance here to start with. So I spoke to Greg O'Rourke about that, and he said the Victorian government has changed rules after COVID, and which meant that it wasn't compulsory to have an ambulance at an A-League fixture. So that was the answer from Greg O'Rourke just a minute ago when I asked him about that, but it seems ridiculous that he've had to wait 13 minutes for treatment, and he should be in hospital by now. So, yeah, over 13 minutes before the ambulance was able to get here. Perhaps they need to look at that.
Yeah, maybe not compulsory, but certainly desirable, Grace.
I think desirable is at a bare minimum. Look, I think it should be compulsory. It should be a requirement, and our players, our athletes deserve the absolute best support, particularly in the way of medical treatment.
Well, Juande still having to wait. I assume he's been given the gas to ease the pain. I've never broken a leg. I don't know whether you...
Leg myself, but been around players and teammates who have had serious injuries and had to witness the distress around that until they have had ambulance support.
Well, now all about getting Juande comfortable enough and into a position where they can manoeuvre him off the field and into that ambulance and get him where he needs to be. And paramedics arriving to tend to Adelaide's stricken midfielder. He's been given the best care possible by the medical staff on the ground. And now the people who do this job every day, and we thank them for doing it, will take over and give him the best possible care. And those Reds fans, sorry Grace, who've been in such high spirits for much of today, having seen their team score 3 times, will probably be being made aware via text message or updates on social media of the state of one of their players. which is very sad to see.
Yeah, it is. And the point I was just going to make was that you really do commend the immediate response from both players, both sets of team and both sets of medical staff as quickly as they could were on to support one day. And Craig Goodwin straight away motioning to the stretcher. He knew something was bad, and even as a player watching on, it can send you into a bit of shock. And yeah, I do credit the response of the people immediately around one day to get him the support he needed.
Well, Javi Lopez in particular was distraught at the sight of not just his teammate but his compatriot, and you'd imagine the Spaniards are all pretty close at Adelaide. And now they've, at some point, got to refocus on winning a game of football. How's your mindset after something like that happens?
Look, it's so hard. It's so hard to re-engage. It's a distraction in the way that even when the game does recommence, it's so hard to reapply your mind and think about the game and kick back into gear. At the same time, teams can look to use that as motivation and play for their teammate who has gone down.
Well, players been stopped now for the best part of 15 minutes. Adam Kersey just probably confirming that, checking the watches with the referee's assessor. And Adelaide's starting to go through some little warm-up exercises just to get the muscles loose again, which indicates perhaps that the resumption is not too far away. It was Craig Goodwin who was first on the scene to alert the medical staff that there was a break, and I think it was plain for all to see. At the moment, he's the match winner, having scored the third goal for the Reds just a minute before the half-time break. Pouncing on a defensive error from Jordan Boss for his sixth goal of the season. This game, when it does resume, still in the balance after Melbourne City hit back through Matt Leckie. Jordan Boss, a young player of immense potential. I guess you're going to get mistakes with youngsters, but that was certainly a big one, and it cost City today. Let's go back down to Michael Zapponi, who I think has one of the Adelaide United coaching staff with him. Sapper.
I do. I have Mark Milligan with me. Thanks for joining us, Mark. Very difficult time for you and for the team. How do you respond to that now?
Yeah, it's tough. Obviously, for the moment, football takes a back seat. It's one of those incidents. I don't think either player could do much differently. Look, it's never nice. We just need to make sure that that one day's looked after properly. We'll worry about the football after that.
There's obviously 15 minutes that has elapsed now since the injury occurred. Are you concerned of the time it's taken to make sure he's okay and get him off the ground?
Yeah, look, not concerned because they're doing it properly. So that's the main thing. It takes as long as it takes. As I said, we'll deal with the other players once one day's looked after in the best possible way. And obviously Melbourne City as well, their medical staff have been fantastic as well as ours.
Everyone around the stadium is shocked. I'm shocked. You're shocked. All the players are shocked. How do you lift them from that now and get them to play a game of football?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I said it's not nice. I've not actually been involved, with something like this before. So we'll address the players once one day is looked after. And as I said, football sometimes has to take a back seat.
And looks like you might be preparing to make a couple of changes as well.
Yeah, we'll have to make a few changes. It's not finalised yet, but yeah, there'll be a couple of changes in our last window.
All right, thanks for joining us.
Thanks, man.
Well, thanks to Mark Milligan, assistant coach of the Reds. Of course, they'll have to make, well, at least one change, but I guess Carl Weert is not just assessing the physical capabilities of his charges, but also their mental state at the moment. You look at the likes of Javi Lopez, who was clearly so emotional and influenced by what he'd seen, whether he's good to go for the final quarter of the game. All things running through the mind, no doubt, of Carl Veert. Hiroshi Basuki was a first half substitute himself for George Blackwood, who went off with most of all, and yet in the modern day it seems to be less so. It's ACL injuries, it's knee problems, it's Achilles, it's hamstrings. I don't know why that should be the case, but they don't seem to happen too often. Thankfully, unfortunately, it's happened today.
Yeah, it's an interesting one, and perhaps a little too early to look for silver linings, but if anything, sometimes surgery and recovery from a leg break is actually in the likes of surgery, sort of half that time required.
I guess if it's a clean break, then so much the better, but all that will be confirmed in the coming days.
Nonetheless, whatever's required to manage and look after that leg break in the best way appropriate.
Opportunities today to add to his 13-goal tally. Let's hear from the Melbourne City camp now. Let's go back down to Zappa.
Yeah, thanks, Simon. The Melbourne City coach, Rado Vidosic, has been good enough to join us. Rado, difficult situation. We spoke to Mark Milligan a little bit earlier about how the team picks itself up from here. I presume it's the same for your team with such a long break and having seen such a terrible injury.
Yeah, look, we'll find out in a few minutes. You know, no one knows how players will react after this. Okay, maybe we got a little bit less attachment to the player than Adelaide players. You know, you would think that they could be a little bit more affected, but that may give them extra energy, you know, to fight for him.
What about the game itself? Obviously, your team trails, but you've started the second half well. What do you want to see more from your side?
Just a little bit more composure. You know, we need to be brave to bring the ball into their half, and then we need to be patient. When do we make those final entries into the penalty box? I think once we did really well, we created a number of chances in first half. Should have scored two or three goals from very close range. Now, you know, can we replicate similar chances, and hopefully we can score one goal.
You've made some changes tactically as well as from personnel point of view. Florent Berenguer comes in. What are you hoping from him in the second half?
Look, he was our best player last year. You know, he's been edging to get back on the field, and you know, there's no better game than this one to put him in, and hopefully he can show us, you know, what good player he is and how he can help us.
A couple of uncharacteristic mistakes in the first half from your side, some errors. What did you put that down to, and what was your message to the players at halftime?
Look, we don't criticize mistakes. You know, mistakes will happen, and you know, as long as they are correct mistakes. You know, air swings, missing the ball, you know, is it because of the surface? Is it because of concentration? You know, it's very hard to pinpoint. But, you know, the mistakes will be happening in the game, and just don't worry about it.
Thanks for joining us.
Keep going on.
Thanks.
No worries.
Yeah, rather philosophical Rado Vidosic. Mistakes do happen. I guess they're put into context when you see something like what's happened in the second half here at Amy Park today. Marco Tilio was guilty of that first mistake in the opening minute of the game. And And Jordan Boss compounded it in the final minute of the first half. The first half really bookended by two big errors by Melbourne City, but they are still in the game, and that speaks volumes. Great skill to their quality.
Look, it does, and I imagine if we do see this game recommence, that if there is another goal, it will be a fairly muted celebration from either side. It has that feel about it. I'm sure both teams would like to see out the match, but certainly with a somber cloud over the top of it.
Tom Glover and Joe Gauci, two of the finest young goalkeepers in the Isuzu Ute A-League men's competition. Gauci in particular had a couple of big saves to make in the first half. Tom Glover didn't really have much of a chance with any of the Adelaide goals. Talking of injuries, of course, we should wish Melissa Barbieri well as well. Also Melbourne City goalkeeper for the A-League women's team, who's had a bit of an injury setback herself, Grace.
She has indeed, and on the cusp of her 100th game in the Liberty A-League. So disappointing to see Melissa Barbieri won't yet make that milestone, but I've got no doubt in my mind she will. But speaking of the women's game, that one will too be delayed and anticipated, well, an original kickoff time rather of 5:40, but understandably with this delay that will be pushed back considerably.
Talking of which, there she is. There's Bubs. Good to see she's still got a smile on her face, even though she's on crutches.
Having a chat to Jenna McCormick.
She's tough, is Melissa. She'll be back, and hopefully one day will be too. And Melissa Barbieri's got a few years on one day as well, as the ambulance makes its way slowly and carefully to the area of the pitch where the stricken Juande is located. Javi Lopez is on the mobile phone. Maybe talking to Juande's family. Who knows? Entirely possible. He's clearly felt it worse than most. So now the best part of half an hour we've been waiting for the game to resume. And of course, that's all the material. It's all about getting Juande the best possible care. I'm sure he's in very good hands. And we're told that when the game does resume, it will restart at the 66-minute mark. So we'll have 24 minutes left for play. And Grace, you could probably do the maths and work out when the women's game is going to start on the back of that.
Not that quickly, I can tell you that much, Simon. But look, there will be a hefty delay. And as we did see just moments ago, Mr. Barbieri having a chat to Jenna McCormick, a doubleheader this afternoon, and that will obviously push the women's game back considerably as well tonight.
Well, the players will also undergo a 5-minute warm-up to get ready to go again. That's what we've been told before play can resume. There's George Blackwood, who's left knee heavily strapped. Horrible moment for him in the first half where he hyperextended that left leg in an accidental collision with Ryan Kitto. Forced off the field to be replaced by Hiroshi Ibasuki. But thankfully no serious damage, or at least it doesn't appear so, for Blackwood.
What a tough afternoon for Adelaide, for Carl Viet. A couple of players going down with, well, one obviously very serious injury, and we hope for Blackwood that it's less so, but still what looked particularly nasty at the time.
Well, Adelaide have got some other injuries, of course, as well at the moment. Harry van der Sark is out with a knee problem, and Bernardo with a foot injury. Reserve keeper Stephen Hall has also got a knee injury. And they were missing defenders Ben Warland through suspension, and Lockie Barr still not quite ready to return either. All further depletes the depth of the squad. And let's have a look at the good stuff from today. Maybe not so far as Marco Tilio is concerned. This is how it all got started after just 34 seconds, Grace.
Well, it wasn't exactly the start we thought we'd see from this encounter. A really uncharacteristic start for Marco Tilio in particular. This slotted home really nicely by Blackwood, who was awarded with this starting position this afternoon, so especially disappointing for him to have to go off.
Thomas Lamb squaring the ledger from Valon Berisha's corner. That came in the 12th minute. And you fancy that Melbourne City, given their form this season, might have pushed on from there, but instead Ryan Kitto nodded home after that corner from Craig Goodwin, helped on by Javi Lopez at the near post. Just Kitto's second of the season. And just before the break, Grace, it got even worse for City.
It did indeed, from bad to worse. This pass back from Jordan Dawson. He had hands on the head straight away. He knew that that pass was anything but what he intended, and Craig Goodwin has picked up that gift and run with it.
Yeah, he couldn't have picked a worse player to pass the ball to than Craig Goodwin. However, City are not out of this contest, and this is why. Matt Lackey's had a barnstorming season for City, lashing the ball home from long range, took a bounce just in front of Joe Gauci to make it 3-2.
It was a great finish by Lucky. I thought perhaps Adelaide defence could have stepped up a little closer on him, but Lucky is so explosive in those moments, and it was a wonderful finish.
Now the good news is that Hyundai has been moved into the ambulance, which will no doubt make him much more comfortable once he's in that more controlled environment. And he can be moved off to a hospital in Melbourne, where he will get the best possible treatment. And after a short warm-up, the players will be able to resume what is left of today's contest, and indeed today's round, or this weekend's round, I should say. And it's been quite a round in so many different ways, Grace. Goals, talking points, and now sadly an injury to round it off that is really serious.
A really kind round of applause for Hyundai as he has been moved into the ambulance, and after this lengthy delay, both sets of fans, supporters, teammates clapping and awarding, and there will be a conversation, having undergone respective warm-ups, how this one gets back underway.
So he is dealing with the emotional effects of what's happened to his compatriot as well. So the changes for Adelaide. We're going to see Johnny Yule come on in place of Zach Clough. And of course, Hyundai is replaced, and Nick Ansell is brought on in his stead. Nick Ansell was actually slated to start today, but a late change to the Adelaide defensive lineup saw Isaias selected to partner Alexander Popovic. Ansell will play his part off the bench. Players almost ready to resume. I'm sure they will just wait until the ambulance is clear of the arena before we get things back underway.
I'm curious as well to see how this restart will begin.
Well, it's a long time ago now, but I actually thought it was a foul by Hyundai, so maybe it'll be a free kick for Melbourne City, who knows, or a drop ball. It was certainly a 50-50 contest between the Spaniard and Florent Berenguer, but anyway, that's all academic. Certainly no blame can be attached to Florent Berenguer as the ambulance slowly makes its move back along the apron of the pitch towards that tunnel area in the far side of the ground. Our thoughts and best wishes go with Juande. Good to see the Melbourne City fans on their feet applauding as well. Rivalry goes out the window in these moments, doesn't it, really?
It does, and it's those moments that things are bigger than football.
And as soon as that ambulance is off the apron of the pitch, we will resume with a free kick, as I suspected we might, to Melbourne City. So almost half an hour lost, and we resume. Rather subdued circumstances, which is a real pity because it's been a cracking game of football, Grace, but it has to be completed. And let's hope the players can refocus and give us some more of what they've given us before that horrible incident.
It has been an entertaining match. With that injury, the exception to that point, but after what has been quite a round this weekend in the Isuzu Ute A-League men's, number of goals scored, and today has been no different.
Confirmation of those changes for the Reds. Yeah, 24 goals scored all told this round, maybe more to come yet. Berenguer's cross, and Jamie McLaren, normally he only needs one chance, and I reckon that's the first clear-cut one he's had all afternoon, but he couldn't take it.
Well, we spoke about Jamie McLaren and how he can have a quiet afternoon but still step up in those moments, and all that is shy of that post, and that would have been some restart to this match this afternoon, and perhaps just what Jamie McLaren needs to kick into gear.
Craig Goodwin was a fair bit of space, but they couldn't pick him out. You'd expect City to force the issue, they have to. Adelaide, of course, still have plenty of quality in attack. Melbourne City have to be mindful of that. No way through for Berenguer, well protected by Isaias. And the Reds, of course, will want to win this game for their teammate as much as anything else.
Frustrated one there from Craig Goodwin. Just a wayward touch or mistouch on that ball, and Grant City an opportunity to reset and build up from the back once more.
Worked out by O'Neill towards Naboot. It's not the best ball from Andrew Naboot. Might work out all right though for City. Naboot again. Talbot. Pass is just a little bit awry after the restart, maybe understandable. Ibasuki, Goodwin. I think he was trying to do that, trying to bend it around that defensive line for the run of Halloran. Might get the purchase, did he?
Yeah, a couple of times now. Goodwin hasn't quite hit that ball how he would have liked to do so, and frustration just coming into his game in his last couple of touches. But really cool and calm from Ibasuki there. He looks so comfortable on the ball.
Here's Andrew Naboot going to lash one from long range. We're going to see with the outside of the boot, which has almost become his trademark. Ansell, just back after a long injury layoff of his own. Started against MacArthur in that 1-0 win last week, which is his first for the club since November 2021. Lopez. This is Johnny Yule, who's making his first appearance for the senior team since the 2021 campaign as well. Kitto. Isaias, nice little nutmeg to get rid of Aidan O'Neill. Swung out towards Halloran, promising this for the Reds. Halloran, well held by Glover.
That looked good from Adelaide. Nice build-up. Isaias, a really great switch just to relieve a bit of pressure, and Halloran driving in. Glover did well, but Ibusuki was there had he fumbled that at all.
Adelaide pick up the scraps in midfield here. Isaias, oh, it's a loose ball. Needed better quality there. Leckie. Looking to hit McLaren. First time ball, Van der Ven. Trying to reward that run of Berenguer. Still alive for City. McLaren back to O'Neill. It'll be a corner off the Rigo. Home fans finding their voices once again. Jink by Berenguer. Van der Ven might get a second bite at it. Probably should have gone with the right foot rather than the left and just jabbed it over the top of the bar. He's had a couple of chances though today, the Dutchman.
Yeah, he's getting himself into some good positions, and almost looked like he pulled up a little bit proppy after that one, just clutching at his knee.
Now, Adam Kersey just in conversation with the VAR, Sean Evans. Maybe just looking at a potential handball. Yeah, came off the arm of Popovic, but arm's pretty close to the body, I think. Unless you disagree, Grace.
Well, obviously close enough.
O'Neill. Leckie. Lopez trying to match him stride for stride, and the Spaniard's done his job.
Yeah, that's well defended there by Lopez. It's normally what Leckie does so well, just rolls off his defender, and his first touch uses to separate a bit of space, but Lopez on that occasion defended really well.
Turned back by Jordan Boss, under pressure from Halloran. Cleared upfield by Glover. Turned by Ansell, Johnny Yule. Difficult one to bring down for the youngster. And City about to Rigo. Berenguer again. In the bandits, back post was McLaren. Adelaide stay strong, and Popovic to clear. Coming more into the game though, Jamie McLaren.
Yeah, City certainly asking questions.
Richard Van der Ven absolutely
Well, I think he had a fair argument there, but you're right. I don't think he was going to change the mind of Adam Kersey.
Lucky. Now the whistle has gone. He brought back for free kick to City. Good. Boss. Just holding off the attentions of Van Halloran. Good again. Quite stick for McLaren. Starting to get into those little pockets of space, isn't he, Jamie McLaren? Just plays off the shoulder of the defender.
He does so well, and the temptation when a player has a quiet game is to pull them off and put on a set of fresh legs. But for a player like Jamie McLaren, you could have 85 quiet minutes and in the 90th minute pop up for a really important goal. And we've seen him do that time and time again, so I've got no doubt he'll see out the full 90, and it feels as though he's building more into this game.
Talbot floats it over the top. Here is McLaren. He's trying to just stop it dead for the run of Berenguer.
It was clever by McLaren, though. You could see just before the ball was played, checking his shoulder, checking he was on side, and repeating that again and again.
So he is with the grimace after that challenge. Forward for Ibasuki, who lays it off nicely for Johnny Yule. Goodwin. Yule. Got to the byline and flashed a decent ball across the face of goal. Break here for Javi Lopez. Over the head of Ibasuki, and Talbot probably aware of the fact that Yule and Goodwin were stationed not too far behind him. Wasn't about to take a chance.
There's a few times this afternoon Talbot has had to clear at that far post just for certainty, but here's a flash of energy by Yule. Just come on in the last few minutes, just try to settle himself into the game.
Goodwin's corner. Put away by Nuno Reis. Back in by Isaias, but there are too many bodies in the way for the Reds. Only 17, Johnny Yule. Reds' third youngest ever player. Made his debut against Perth Glory in January 2021.
"17 years old." Just in case we didn't feel old enough already, Simon.
I think you've got a problem.
But what a good opportunity for Johnny Yule.
At least your age is not higher than the number on his shirt. At least I don't think it is. Down the line by Kitto, but enough elevation to find Goodwin. Lovely control again by Curtis Good. Shown us a couple of times the qualities that so impressed Ange Postecoglou, and did him a Socceroos debut, of course, a few years ago now. from the ball again. There again. Good. Down the line for Boss. Had to go a bit to keep it in play. Berenguer. O'Neill. City trying to move Adelaide around patiently, waiting for the space to appear. Van der Ven, O'Neill. Good. O'Neill. This is like a training ground drill at the moment for City. Berenguer with a little bit of invention. And Nick Ansell with a bit of a miscue, but it turns out all right for the Reds. Over the top it goes for a corner.
Well, Ansell looks back at the grass like that ball might have caught a bubble. Really good bit of individual skill there to find City into a good attacking place after some good patient build-up.
They've earned this corner. Berenguer's delivery, and it's just wide. Inches.
It's getting closer for Jamie McLaren. The delivery from Berenguer was good, and City have risen well.
It's good, it's good. Another change for City. Club captain Scott Jamieson on for what remains of the game in place of Aidan O'Neill. Does that mean Geordie Boss shifts a little bit further forward? Jamieson at left back. Wouldn't be surprised if it does. Yep, looks to be the case. Jamieson. Punches it into the channel, and Leckie is around his man, driving for the byline, and that could have gone anywhere. It's another City corner. And they are cranking up the pressure, the home side.
Yet again, Matt Leckie orchestrates this opportunity for City. Great driving run, the outside of the right foot to fashion a cross in. Found a corner for his side.
City's 11th corner. Berenguer's delivery. Away by Lopez. Back in by Boss. This is Naboot. Talbot. Leckie. Naboot. Adelaide can't get out for the moment. Talbot. All the way back to Tom Glover. It's almost on the halfway line, the goalkeeper. Boss. Berenguer. It's been good since coming off the bench. Given City that little bit of finesse in places. Adelaide a rare sight of the ball in the last few minutes. Can they get upfield? Just relieve that bit of pressure. 26 shots City have mustered today, but still trailing in the stat that really matters.
At this stage, Adelaide just looking to protect their lead, as they have done much of this game, just allowing City to play. City really cool and confident with possession as they are.
Boss on the left. Skips clear of Lopez, fires in the cross. Oh, that should have been the equaliser for Andrew Naboot. And he misses from point-blank range.
What a chance, a golden opportunity for Melbourne City. Fashioned really well by Jordan Boss once more, taking on his player. The ball in.
Might have been a hint of offside.
May have just drifted into an offside position, but nonetheless a prime opportunity.
And to coin a phrase, that was a Boss cross. And Naboot should have done better with it, and he knows it. Just a little bit of frustration perhaps from Andrew Naboot. Clattering into the back of Goodwin, who's telling his teammates there's no hurry to take the free kick. Let's quickly go down to Zappa again.
A quick update on the Liberty A-League game. That will kick off no earlier than 6:15, Simon, after the delay that we had in this game. Also, I've learned a lot about the Victorian health system here. Just to clarify some points on the ambulance. There was a decision made by the Victorian government that they could take resources away from grounds and put them back into the health system, so no ambulances allowed at sporting venues.
Okay, here's a chance maybe for Adelaide, but the flag is up against Ibasuki. Thanks for that update, Zappa.
And also I should just clarify that, but that doesn't stop clubs or A-League being able to pay for a private service. So I suppose that's the question that will come up during the week.
Correct. Thanks, Zappa. Now given away by Goodwin to his Socceroos teammate Matt Lackey. He's just dallied too long. Wanted a bit of time to think about it. He's showing good determination to win it back though. And Van der Ven drifting into a little pocket here, crossing on the turn, but Gauci will grab that and hang on for dear life. Johnny Yule was shown a yellow card some moments ago. I have to confess, I got no idea what that one was for. You, Grace?
You and me both,
Delaying the restart,
Simon.
we're told. There we go. Well, there have been some nervous moments for Carl Weert and his team in this second half, but just a couple of minutes to go, plus stoppages. Their lead is still intact. As Kitto delivers the free kick. So he is trying to turn it out towards Van Halloran on the right. Jamison too strong for him. Berenguer clattered into by Yul, who's got to be careful. We've had 24 goals this weekend. Round 14 of the Isuzu Ute A-League men's competition. Is there to be a 25th? Goodwin. Reyes anxious to get on with it. Berenguer. Talbot. Van der Ven. City throw. Talbot got clear of Goodwin somehow. Fires in the cross. It's an awkward one. Only partly cleared by Javi Lopez, helped on its way by Popovic. And then Johnny Yule shows his determination to win it back from Scott Jamison. The City fans believe the ball has gone out on that far side, and the assistant referee agrees. Berenguer. Boss. Still going. Jordan Boss. And still, is there a trip? Penalty. Popovic dangled out the leg. And Adam Kersey was perfectly placed to see that there was contact and points to the penalty spot, and City, as we tick over into stoppage time, have a lifeline.
Well, it was a dazzling run-in by Jordan Boss. How many times this afternoon and across the season have we seen him do this? And Popovic, it's just the slightest of touches, but it's enough.
Well, I can't believe it, those Reds fans. They were so close. City still have to convert, of course. And Jamie McLaren has missed one this season. It's the 8th penalty City have been awarded this campaign. And this is a vital kick from the A-League's top marksman. Can he rescue a point for the league leaders? McLaren, Gauci gets the right way, but McLaren scores, and it's another milestone for J-Mac as he moves into 4th place past John Cosmina on the all-time National League scoring list with goal number 134. And that's how it arrived, and that's how it was dispatched. Gauci got a hand to it, but could not keep it out.
Well, on the Harvey Norman replay, Jamie McLaren, how many times have we seen this player step up with the weight of pressure on his shoulders for Melbourne City to equalise in what are the dying minutes of this game? And it's unsurprisingly that man on screen, Jamie McLaren, who does it again for Melbourne City.
Well, that is some comeback, you have to say, by Melbourne City. Trailing 3-1 at half-time. Now, surely they can't go on and win it. There's not too much time to go. There's no foul there on Lopez. City in the mood. Jamison a bit over-eager, as it turned out.
Well, it's so impressive for Jamie McLaren to step up time and time again and to convert from the penalty spot. The more you take, the more you score, the more the pressure mounts. And what a moment. Kept his cool and kept his nerve and slotted that one away professionally.
And credit to Jordan Boss for the run, who's now just won another free kick, which Ben Halloran thought was a touch soft. Carl Viet, well, if a picture tells a story. And you could say the same about Rado Vidicic. Could they snatch an unlikely win here? Jamison's free kick driven in off the head of Lopez at the near post. Naboot to retrieve. Talbot charged down by Goodwin. Van der Ven heads off. Kitto at the pass. Leckie. Not much time left at Omi Park. Berenguer. Shoot is the cry from the home fans. Have to make do with a throw. Craig Goodwin, when he scored that 3rd goal, must have thought that surely he'd won all 3 points for the Reds, but not so. City showing the quality and grit of league leaders, which they are. Clever dummy by Leckie opens the door perhaps for Berenguer. We're into the 95th minute. Jamison, Boss. The cross needs to come in soon. Too late. All over. Groans of disappointment for the home fans. But a super game of football, overshadowed, it must be said, by a horrible injury to Juande of Adelaide United, who's gone off to hospital. We wish him well, and those Adelaide fans left to ponder what might have been. It's a 3rd consecutive draw for Melbourne City. The first time they failed to win in 3 consecutive games in 12 months. On paper at the start, you might have said a good point for the Reds, who maintained their finals charge, but having been 3-1 up as they were at the interval, they will end up disappointed they couldn't finish off the job Of more concern is the injury to Day. George Blackwood limped off as well. It was a horror first half for Melbourne City. Mistakes by Marco Tilio and by Jordan Boss, presenting 2 gift-wrap goals to Craig Goodwin. And before that, in the opening minute, to George Blackwood. In between, Ryan Kitto had scored as well. Thomas Lamb had got on the boards for the first time for Melbourne City on those second half goals from Matt Leckie, and that milestone goal for Jamie McLaren in stoppage time, enough to earn Melbourne City a point. What a game, what a weekend in the Isuzu Ute A-League men's competition. 25 goals in total, 6 today, equally shared. Melbourne City 3, Adelaide United 3.